Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Season and Serve vlog. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I transformed our top floor balcony into a beautiful Mediterranean container garden. This project was really easy and very fun to do, and I love that I now have a space for all of my Mediterranean plants in one area. So in today's video, I'll talk a little bit about the plants that I chose for my Mediterranean container garden, as well as tips and tricks for potting up plants into large terracotta pots like the ones that I have here. So if you want to see how I built this beautiful Mediterranean container garden, just keep on watching. So the first thing to consider when doing your own container garden is decide on the actual containers that you want to plant in. There's plastic, there's metal, there's clay, there's terracotta. There's so many things that are available. But for me, in my container garden, I am deciding to use terracotta pots. Not only does this fit with the Mediterranean feel of the container garden that I'm trying to go for, there's lots of great properties that terracotta pots have that really help plants grow and thrive in them. So first up, terracotta pots, if you buy really good ones, you'll notice that they're very heavy and they're very durable pots on their own. And they are heavy because they are made of terracotta clay, basically. And this clay has really great purposes. It is really porous, so it allows water to easily escape out. And this will kind of prevent any of your plants kind of drowning in water or getting too wet. It kind of allows water to seep out to prevent that from happening. Additionally, since it's so porous, air can get through to the plant roots, so it's easily able to exchange air from between the outside of the pot and the inside of the pot where the roots are, leading to healthier plants. So for my Mediterranean container garden, I'm going to be using terracotta pots. And I've been collecting terracotta pots for about the last 6 to 8 months since we moved here, and I knew I wanted to do this project. And I've got most of mine from a place called Garden Works, which is a local garden center in British Columbia. They have a bunch of locations and they have the nicest terracotta pots. As you can see here, and I'll show you in some other clips, there are a bunch of different shapes and sizes, and I kind of like mixing that together just so that it has a nice kind of like curated kind of feel to it, so everything's not the exact same. Although I do have, I think, 2 sets of pots that are the same, but they still look really beautiful, and I think they'll look great mixing with all these other different pots that I have. So besides the container itself, another aspect of container gardening that's really important is the soil. Obviously, plants have to grow in soil, they have to have all the right nutrients. This is some soil that we got from our in-laws, and it is already like a pre-mixed container soil that they made for us. But apart from regular soil, they've added in some peat moss, and that helps to add in some moisture retention. So the peat moss really helps to absorb water, which keeps the roots of the plants nice and moist and will help the plants basically live throughout the hot summer months. And conversely, you don't want your plants to hold on to that much water where they can kind of soak up too much water and become unhealthy. You want to make sure that there's some perlite in your soil as well that helps with drainage. And you can tell when perlite's been added because it's normally these little white flakes throughout your soil. And you normally find this already in pre-made potting soils that are available in garden centers. Besides peat moss and perlite, which really helps with the structure of the soil, you also want to make sure there's lots of compost added so that your plants will have nutrients. Typically with container gardening, you're not going to be changing out the soil for your plants every year. You might be able to change it every 3-ish years or so. So you want to make sure there's a decent amount of compost already in there for your plant to grow and get established in. So this is the soil that we're going to be using, and we have a whole garbage bin full of this. This is super heavy, and I know that because we accidentally dropped this on my foot this morning. So we have tons of soil, and I hope this is enough to fill up all of our large pots here. So before adding your soil directly into your pots, we want to make sure that it can actually drain properly. So let me show you how I set up the drainage for our terracotta pots. So before we add soil to our container, we have to make sure the drainage is set up for the container to drain all the water through properly. So you'll notice with the terracotta pots, if you bought good ones, they will always have a hole in the bottom of it. And if you don't put something to cover up this hole, sometimes the soil can actually leach out and go through your container and will sit on your deck or whatever surface it's actually sitting on. So my trick for actually lining this is not to use like shards of pots or anything like that. I actually just use a coffee filter, and I just put them in the bottom, and the soil can sit directly on top. It's not going to leach through, and it'll still allow all the water to drain and like percolate out. So this is a really good and inexpensive hack for letting your containers drain properly. Other solutions to help with drainage for containers is to fill the bottom with some gravel or rocks. I personally don't like doing that because I find that it makes the soil or the containers itself actually very heavy. So I actually just do it all with soil. It'll have enough room for the plant's roots to grow, and you don't have to switch with the containers as often. So that's my method. Another great tip to help promote the drainage of any container that you're planting in is you can actually elevate it using something called plant feet or plant toes, sometimes they're called. So I have these nice terracotta ones, and I got these at my local garden center. And all you have to do is just arrange them around your pot. And then you can just set your pot directly on top. And as you can see, there's a gap under here. So any water that comes through will just drain perfectly away from the pot, and you won't have your pot sitting in lots of water. So if you can't find a terracotta version like this, you can also use a plastic version. And this brand is actually called Pot Toes. It is so cute. I found this in my local garden center, but you can also get this on Amazon. Although I did find it was a little bit more expensive on Amazon. But it's the same concept. It's just little plastic feet that you slide under the pots, and it keeps your pots elevated. And to prevent toppling, you want at least 3 of these per container, just so that it can't rock back and forth and fall over. So 3 feet per container is the right choice. And I don't think I have enough to fill all of my pots today, but I will get some more and continually add this to help elevate our planters. But luckily on the deck that we're going to be setting this on, there is a little bit of a plastic riser to cover up the main deck, just from like IKEA or whatever. So at least those pots that'll be sitting on there for now will have some sort of drainage. Okay, so I have you zoomed out so you can get the full picture here, but we're going to be putting this beautiful Japanese maple into this container here. And to get that prepared, we are going to add our little coffee filter liner. So that's going to go on the bottom to cover up the hole. There's actually 2 holes, but it's large enough to actually cover both. And now we're going to fill it with soil. And I'm going to fill it probably halfway up with soil. And I'm just going to use my hands to do this. Get a little closer so we don't spill. Oh my god, I hope I have enough soil. Alright, so we have our container all filled with soil, and now we're going to carefully lift this out of the pot here and then nestle it in here. So it's going to make a hole in the middle. And carefully, I'm going to lean this over onto my tarp so that I don't make a mess. Gently maneuver this out. I'm just going to pull by the stem. There we go. That's going to go right into our pot. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just going to fill in the soil around the root ball, and we should be good. But this is a stunning Japanese maple. It emerges red in the spring, which is really interesting, and then it fades to this beautiful chartreuse green with red sort of stems and red edges. It's so beautiful. I got it from one of my followers when I lived in Victoria. She brought it over to my house, and I've had it ever since, and I absolutely love it. So still have this plant going strong, and it is so cute and gonna look so great on this patio. So I'm gonna stake this up, and then I'll place it where I want it, water it in, and then I'll keep going for the rest of these plants. Next up, we're going to be potting up this huge Japanese maple. This variety is called Bonfire. It is stunning. And if you can see here, we have a shattered pot. And this actually broke when we moved. I guess the movers dropped it, or, you know, even just during transport on the bumpy roads coming over. I just take the whole side off. So while that's good for drainage, I don't want to have a broken pot on our patio here. So I'm going to shimmy this out, see what the root ball is looking like to see which pot it's going to fit in. I kind of want to put it in one of the V-shaped pots just so it's different from the other Japanese maple, but we'll see. So let's uncover this and see what it's looking like. See, these are also some really good shards to use at the bottom of the drain holes, but this would be garbage for me. Well, we missed some comedic gold of me trying to get this into this planter, but I did it. this tree was a beast to get in, but the root ball actually does fit, which is surprising considering that this pot that I was in was actually like really big. So glad to say it worked out, and I only sustained minor injuries and my camera died. So yeah, that's fun to have to fix that during filming. But anyways, we got this in. You can see I planted it pretty high up. That's also because the root ball doesn't go all the way down. But I'm just going to backfill this all with soil again, just like before, and then we'll get on to our next plants. I feel like the further and further we get into this video, the more disheveled I'm going to look. But I really want to explain all these plants to you because I love all of them so much, and they're perfect for Mediterranean gardens. Now, the Japanese maples, maybe not so much, but I love these trees. I have nowhere else to put them, but I kind of like that they are very full and they're very vibrant, especially in the fall. And I think up here it needs a little bit of that impact because these Mediterranean plants are a little bit more sparse, a little bit more dry looking, but the Japanese maples are very vibrant and they look like hydrated and there's lots of color. So I think it's a good balance of that. But for Mediterranean plants, we have an olive tree, and this is an Arbequina olive that I got at Garden Works a number of years ago, and it's actually starting to fruit some little olives, which is so amazing. I want to see if I can actually press some olive oil this year. We'll see. But it's been in this container for a while, so it'll be much happier in this pot, and I think the shape of this pot is perfect for an olive tree. Let's gently rock this out. Oh, it's really stuck in here. Oh, it's really in there. Okay. It's okay, it'll come out. Oh, there we go. Woo! Oh yeah, that is very rooted in. So, this is what it looks like. I'm just gonna put it right in. Oh, it's the perfect amount of soil in there too. Again, I'll just fill this right up with soil. And I expect this olive to just explode with all this nice rich soil. It's gonna be amazing. All right, so there's my olive tree all potted up. It looks so beautiful. And for watering, this does need a moderate amount of water. It is like a drought tolerant plant to a certain degree, apart from when it's fruiting. So when it does that, you do want to make sure it stays watered and hydrated so we can get some beautiful olives this year. And it looks like there's gonna be tons. I'm looking at this up close and I'm like, this is beautiful. I'm so excited. So subscribe to stay tuned on the olive situation in our Mediterranean container garden. All right, let's place this and then we'll get on to potting up our fig tree. All right, so next up we're potting up this beautiful green fig. We had this for quite a few years in this pot. I would say almost like 5 years. It's been way too long. So it's in definite need of a new container and some new soil. But this is a beautiful plant. We got it from, again, David's parents. They actually grafted this off of a tree, and I'm not sure the variety, but they have beautiful green figs, and it obviously goes well with the Mediterranean container garden because figs, they're from the Mediterranean. They are beautiful and gorgeous, and it just looks so nice. I love the leaves too. So let's get this guy out of its pot if I can. I'm kind of nervous about this one actually. So let's tip it over and try and maneuver it out. All right, I'm gonna take off some of these weeds because we don't need those. Perfect. All right, so another really great Mediterranean container plant is some rosemary. And this is a rosemary topiary that I got at a local garden center, and it is super beautiful. It is looking a little dry, so I think maybe the winter might have got it a little bit, but we'll see how it does. The ends look pretty good. It looks pretty healthy on the ends, so we'll see what happens to it. But I decided to put it into this pot, so see if I can just lift it all. Oh yeah, lift it all out, pop it right in. Almost. Oh yeah, that's much better. Slightly lower, and it looks much better. All right, that's a bit easier for me. All right, so I just shook this plant and a ton of leaves came off, but I think that was just all the old growth. So hopefully, again, the ends look really good. So I'm going to make sure to fertilize this, give us lots of water, and just monitor the moisture levels. So we'll see, but it's a beautiful plant, so I hope it lives. Last but not least, we have lavender, and this is a Grosso lavender, and I've had this for a number of years now. I hadn't taken very good care of it, so that's why it's pretty small for its age, but hopefully this new pot, it'll be really happy. So, ooh, pretty extensive actually. There, that's a little bit more manageable for this size pot. All right, now that I have all the plants in place where I want them, it is looking beautiful, we're gonna go ahead and fertilize. And even though there is compost in the actual soil, I do wanna give these plants a little bit of a kickstart with this transplanting fertilizer. This is from Garden Works, it's their own blend. It's about 5-15-5 for the nutrient composition, but I've tried this on many of my plants and it's worked wonderfully. So I'm just gonna follow the instructions, put it in some water, and then give everything a nice watering in, and then we should be good to go. So after watering the rest of the pots and giving the patio a really good sweep, because despite the tarp, I did get soil everywhere, I put the plant toes on the bottom of the pot. I had my husband David help me to lift out the pots, and then I arranged the pot toes underneath them. The set of the terracotta plant toes that I have were really beautiful, and it really did a good job at elevating our olive tree. I also found that the plastic ones also work too, and it seemed like the plants are elevated enough and they're draining properly. And after monitoring the plants for a few weeks, I decided to mulch the top of the plants just so that it will retain a little bit more moisture over the summer. So I did about 1/2 inch thick of mulch on top of each planter, and this has so far been working really well to keep the plants nice and hydrated throughout the summer. Now that the project is done, it is time for the big reveal. And that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me plant my Mediterranean container garden. If you did, make sure you hit the red subscribe button down below to keep up to date on what this garden looks like throughout the seasons, and make sure you follow me on social media at Season and Serve Blog. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.